Welcome to Combat Society. UFC 230 has just passed. My name is Madison and this is Tyrone. We have some hot topics to talk about today. UFC 230 results. Floyd Mayweather has just signed with MMA promotion Rizin and will be fighting Japanese prospect Tenshin Nasukawa, but we're unsure about the rule set and weight at this point in time. UFC 234 has just been announced in our home city of Melbourne, Australia, and it will be headlined by Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum live on pay-per-view. But first, let's get into UFC 230 results.
Daniel Cormier versus Derek Lewis. The fight that we expected, but not the fight that we wanted. Daniel Cormier for 2 rounds was consistently taking him down, avoiding the striking exchanges, and won in round 2 by rear naked choke.
Yeah, there was a clear skill gap in this fight. Daniel Cormier having the superior wrestling and a respectable striking game. So that's what we thought would happen.
Yeah, it was the game plan that Daniel needed to come out with, and he did. He didn't give in to the crowd because there was some boos at some points that Daniel was just taking it down. It was pretty boring. But that's what a true champion does. They win the easiest way they can, and he secured that fight with Brock Lesnar, and he got his first title defense at heavyweight. So he's the only person to ever defend the light heavyweight championship and the heavyweight championship and hold them simultaneously. So it looks like that Brock fight is on the horizon.
Yeah, if we look at the future for DC, he's got 3 matchups. He's got Brock Lesnar, and if Brock Lesnar doesn't show up, he's got Stipe, he's saying, but there's also another matchup against Jon Jones. If we were to decide which one is the most likely, we would have to say it's probably Brock Lesnar. But I don't think in his heart that he really wants to fight Brock. I think he actually wants to avenge that loss against Jon Jones.
I think so. He lost twice to Jones. One was a no contest because Jones tested positive for performance enhancing drugs. Now he could definitely fight Brock and retire, and he would still have in the fans' eyes those 2 losses against Jones. And in my opinion, never really the true legitimate light heavyweight champion. But that's also a risk. If you want to face Jones again, and you risk the chance of losing to him 3 times. Now, if you lose to him 3 times, there's no way that anybody would ever consider him better than Jones, and therefore never really the true light heavyweight champion. But that's just a choice that he has to make for himself. A Brock fight is obviously more money, and it's the easier option, and then he can just retire, but we don't know what's going through his head. Even Jones has come out and said over the past week that he's not interested in that, because for Jones, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter for him because he's already beat him twice, and in his mind, it's, I've beat this guy twice, I can move on. But we can't say the same for Daniel. We can't say if that still lingers in his mind.
Yeah, I think it's in Daniel's best interest to fight him for a 3rd time, secure his legacy, get a win, and be the best ever potentially.
Absolutely, that's what the true hardcore fans want to see. They want to see him versus Jones again because that's the only guy to ever beat him. We know DC can beat everybody. We know that. We know he can beat everybody on the roster from light heavyweight to heavyweight. He can beat them all, but we don't know if he can beat John. And we want to see the matchup where both fighters are clean, namely John. We want to see with no dramas, nothing going on. We want to see what they can do. Now, will that fight be, if they ever make it, at heavyweight or light heavyweight? DC says if it was to happen, it would probably be at light heavyweight, but who knows?
If Jones wins against Gustafsson, I think it's likely that fight will happen, Jones and DC. But you never know. It's a tough matchup for Jones anyway to beat Gustafsson, so he's got to get through that. His hardest ever matchup ever. But if we look at the performance of the night on this card, we're looking at Ronaldo Jacare Silva versus Chris Weidman. In that fight, Chris Weidman dominated for nearly 3 rounds, but still managed to get knocked out.
Yeah, Chris Weidman put on one of his best performances of his whole career, but still didn't come away with the win. So he was controlling the fight for all 3 rounds with his jab, and he was punching very long. His kicks were nice. Jacare was trying to get in with his looping punches like he does, but Chris Weidman was shutting it down with a strong jab and really straight punches, tagging him up, really staying in the fight. And then as round 3 came along, near the end of the fight, something happened to Chris. It seemed like he just got sloppy for a couple of seconds, and that's all it takes. Getting sloppy and getting lazy for a couple of seconds when you're tired can mean the end of the fight, and that's what happened. Jacare hit him off the side of the forehead, side of the head, like around about here. Just clipped him, rattled his brain, dropped him, and Jacare won the fight. The ref did not want to stop the fight, even though Chris Weidman was pretty much out of it. He was just trying to grab his legs and try and stay in the fight, but it was clear that he was unconscious. And Jacare was actually quite upset about that because he didn't want to put any more damage on Chris because they both respect each other so much. But Jacare came away with the win, and from what he's been saying post-fight, he wants that title shot, but there's one other guy who had a great performance, and that's Israel Adesanya. Let's speak about that.
Israel Adesanya has won all 4 of his UFC fights, 3 of which have been performance of the night. He's got the performance of the night bonus. And this kid is a star. He's shown that he has some of the best striking. He has to be at least top 3 best striking in the whole UFC. And he also showed that he's diverse by stopping all of his grappling exchanges.
Yeah, so in the fight, Israel versus Derek Brunson straight away coming out with the game plan that he wants to take him down, but that did not work. Adesanya is very slippery. His scramble is absolutely amazing, and he avoided all the takedowns. Now, he saw the takedowns, and when you see something more than once, he saw it about 4 or 5 times, he knew where Derek Brunson's head would be when he was shooting for that takedown, and he timed a perfect knee as he was coming in, and then he proceeded to finish the fight. After he knew he was hurt from that knee, Derek Brunson wobbled, and Adesanya pounced on him and finished it. So they're both campaigning for a title shot now, Jacare and Israel Adesanya. But that Robert Whittaker fight, that's in February. Now, the next title shot after that will be April, May. They both can't sit out and wait for that title shot. They need to fight each other. I think Israel Adesanya versus Jacare Souza is the fight to make.
Yeah, I think that is the fight to make. These two are... Obviously, Jacare has proven himself a bit more. He's beat more guys, but Israel Adesanya has that star power. He's beaten all 4 of his matchups this year, and you wouldn't be surprised if he was given a title shot. But if we look at who really deserves it, Jacare definitely would deserve it over him. But in the meantime, I think making that fight is very important for the division to find out who really deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. If that Robert Whittaker fight with Kelvin Gastelum was in 2 weeks, then you'd say, yeah, give it to Jacare straight away. But because it's going to be so long until the next title shot, because we have a fight booked, because it's going to be so long, we need fights in the meantime. And because the 2 most active guys in the roster at the moment are Jacare and Israel, and they had great performances, match them up. The winner is the number 1 contender, and that they will fight the winner of Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum. So can't wait for it.
Yeah, and we'll find out how Israel Adesanya, Stylebender, will go on the ground, because it's kind of inevitable with Jacare. If he knows that you're a blue belt on the ground, he's going to try and get you to the ground. I don't think he'll try and strike with him.
Absolutely.
But another performance of the night bonus was given to Jared Cannonier. Surprisingly, he stepped up because Jacare stepped up against Weidman. Yep, sorry. And he put on a show. He knocked out David Branch in the second round and has now launched himself into the rankings.
Absolutely. You know, he came down from the light heavyweight division with a not so great run, and it looks like he's looking way better in the middleweight division. A great fight against a veteran in the middleweight division, David Branch, really showcased his skills. And now he's launched himself into the rankings. He can start getting in the mix of it and start fighting those high-ranked guys and possibly campaign for a title shot.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting, the matchups in the middleweight division. There's a lot going in that division, so it's going to be really cool to see how that plays out. But in the headlines right now, it's on everyone's social media, Floyd Mayweather has now signed with an MMA promotion called Rizin in Japan against a young Japanese prospect, Tenshin Nasukawa. And we're really unsure about this because we don't know if it's an MMA fight. We don't know if it's a boxing fight. We're not sure what it actually is.
Yeah, the whole thing is a bit crazy. We have Floyd Mayweather, who start of this year did speak about entering MMA. The rumors were he was training with Tyron Woodley. Now signed with a Japanese promotion against a Japanese fighter who's very well known and very popular, who has started his MMA career, but he's quite established in kickboxing. Now, we don't know what this is, because Floyd Mayweather saying stuff like it's going to be a special bout. The guy's a great fighter. We doesn't know about weights. He doesn't know about rule sets or anything yet. Now, I don't see a way that if this is, say it's on an MMA fight, say it's just a kickboxing fight, he's going up against a seasoned kickboxer. There's no way he can win this. He's just going to get leg kicked or head kicked, and Floyd has no answer for that, unless for some reason he's been secretly training kicking for the last 5 years, which I don't think he has. We haven't seen him doing any of that. Now, Floyd is smart, so he knows what he's doing here. So this has got that shadiness to it. It's got a weird feeling to it. If you watch the press conference, it all just looked a bit shady. I don't know. It's a bit crazy. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like Floyd will never put himself in a position where he knows he's going to lose. So it has to be something that he can definitely win. And I'm thinking maybe boxing with modified rules. That's all I'm thinking. It has to be. Because if it's kicking, as you said, he's just going to get leg kicked. And if you're not conditioned for that, there's a problem there.
Yeah. The only way you can win this fight, in my opinion, is if this is just a straight boxing match. Because if you throw any aspect of MMA, even if this is MMA, if you throw any aspect of MMA into it, just throw anything in there. So just throw just leg kicks. You can just throw leg kicks and punches. He loses. Just say you can take down, but just and punching also. He loses. You add anything to it, even elbows or knees, he loses. I don't see the way he's going to win this fight. Now, if it's straight MMA and he does win, I would have to say that either this guy is a freak talent who's done 1 year of training and he's a freak, or it's paid off. Now, the whole press conference, everybody just looked, I don't know, they just looked sweaty. They just looked, I don't know, just looked a bit crazy to me. I think the whole thing's a bit of a joke. We don't know how legit this is. It's a bit crazy. The fact that he went to Japan, it just stinks. You know what I mean? Because Floyd wants to control things when he's fighting. He doesn't go and just give up. He wants to be the A side every time. Yeah. He doesn't. And in America, if he was to go to Bellator or UFC, no one's going to give him that A side opportunity. They're going to say, you're going to fight this guy and we're not changing nothing for you. But going to Japan, obviously, he's worked with the promoters there and they're working some sort of deal out. So we're just going to have to see how it goes. It's a bit crazy to me.
Yeah, well, you know why he signed with Rizin, because if he signs with the UFC or he signs with Bellator, you're not going to be able to modify the rules. You're not going to be able to change it up. You're going to be fighting straight MMA and you're going to get annihilated. So we're going to have to wait and see. It's quite close, is it not?
Yeah, they're fighting. I think it's booked for New Year's Eve this year. So, or this year, next year, whatever. It's crazy to me. We're just have to see how it plays out over the next couple of weeks, because there will definitely be headlines and there will definitely be some more news, like the weight class and rules and everything like that. So just got to stay tuned for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, in the headlines was UFC 234 in Melbourne, Australia, our home city where we live, has been announced, and Robert Whittaker, the Australian champ, will headline.
Yeah, it's a great fight. Robert Whittaker, Calvin Gastelum, both all-round great fighters. Both can win in multiple ways. It's going to be a good fight. It's in February, Rod Laver Arena, Melbourne, Australia. We're going to be there, and hopefully they stack it up with other Aussie fighters. We have UFC Adelaide, so there is time. So if the Aussie fighters can get through it with minimal damage, minimal injuries, there's a chance they could turn around the next year and fight and get them all stacked up, and it's going to be great for Aussie MMA. Maybe some new fighters from Hex and other promotions in Australia will get signed and stack it up and get it flowing. It's good.
That's what they usually try and do. The UFC will sign a few more Australian guys and they'll get everyone on those cards, and that just shows that Australian MMA has really risen up. We've signed some new guys from Hex like Jimmy Crute, Suman, Ashton. Those guys are in the UFC and they're just coming up now. So there's a lot to happen in Australian MMA.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so not only do we have UFC Adelaide at the start of December, next week we have Chan Sung Jung versus Yair Rodriguez, UFC Fight Night 139, the tough finale, and then the day after that is UFC Adelaide, and a little bit later will be Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega at UFC 231, and then February, obviously, the Melbourne card, the big Melbourne card. So UFC right now is extremely busy. There's cards every week. So we're going to be covering it, and any news in the world of MMA, we're going to be covering. So leave your comments down below, and we'll catch you next time.